One of my favorite things that's happened for anime online in the last year was My Anime List implementing a seasons archive. They put this archives page up where you can go through all of anime history season by season. It's a pretty simple algorithm, all they did was just use the date of when each show aired and just put it in that season. So it's not, exactly these shows all came out on April, 1st through 15th, like the way that seasons tend to be, now, where it's very strictly regimented. But, it's just based on whenever the show started airing and whenever it finished. Those are the seasons that it's considered a part of. And I am deeply fascinated by looking at anime in terms of things like seasons and trying to figure out, what eras of anime were the best, both in terms of, critical acclaim and in terms of popularity. So, when they rolled this thing out, towards the end of the summer anime season, I made this enormous spreadsheet, and I'll put it in the description, about the most popular season of anime according to My Anime List. I'm gonna have to take the sunglasses off to actually read this thing. Jesus, it's a lot brighter in here than I thought it was. So obviously, My Anime List is, not a comprehensive website documenting everyone who's ever watched anime. It's mostly for English-speaking fans, mostly outside Japan, and, it's only got so many members. But I have always said that I think it's a really good metric, just because when you look at the stuff that, this could be confirmation bias, but when you look at the stuff that's the highest rated, it always makes sense. It's always exactly what you expect to be there. The most popular stuff, Death Note has always been the most popular show on there. I think Attack on Titan's #2 now, which makes sense. Those are the shows everyone talks about, everyone knows about. The highest rated show has been Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood ever since it finished, and that makes perfect sense. It aligns with what, English-speaking fans tend to like about anime. So I really like this site as a gauge of these things in general. So I put together this epic spreadsheet, link below, trying to figure out what was the most popular season of anime ever. Which is an interesting question, because there's almost a guarantee that newer seasons are going to be more popular than older ones. Not only because there's more people watching anime now, but because there's just way more shows coming out, and way more of those shows are being popular. So, having Death Note come out in a season, that would be the biggest show ever, right? It's got by far the most viewers out of any anime ever, according to My Anime List. It appears on over 700,000 lists. The next one down, and this is as of summer 2009, because I haven't done anything with this chart since then, but, it was on over 700,000 lists. The next one down, Attack on Titan, was just under 600,000 lists at the time. So, yeah, there's a huge dissonance between the biggest and the next biggest. And yet, the season that Death Note aired is not the most popular season of anime ever. And in fact, the most popular season of anime of all time, according to my chart, is Fall 2012. And what's most interesting about that is that Fall 2012 didn't have any one show that was, ridiculously bigger than any other. These were the reasons, because it had so many, pretty big shows that it, just completely outdoes any other season. So it had Psycho-Pass, Chunibyo de Mokoi Gashitai, Sakura So Pet Nakanajo, Tonari no Kaibutsu-kun, Batum, Magai, Kei, Shinsekai Yori, Zetsuen no Tempest, and Tsukite Inayo, which are all pretty big. That last one a little less so, but they were all fairly big shows, and that's 9 or 10 pretty big shows, which is just crazy for one season to have that many shows that are all fairly well known, probably household names to anyone who's really considers themselves a big anime fan, or anyone who was around at that time. So yeah, it's interesting. And then picking up from there, even though 2012 had the biggest season, 2014 was the biggest year at the time I made this chart, where just because there's so many fucking shows coming out now, that it was kind of bound to be the biggest year, because it just had more shows than any other year before it. So the second biggest of all time season was Fall 2006, the one with Death Note, because it also had Code Geass. Both of them are in the top 10 highest rated anime on the site. And I'm looking at it now, and Death Note is actually up to close to 900,000 viewers. So even crazier since last summer when I made this list. Code Geass is up to 600,000. D. Gray Man came out that season, which was a big deal. Katekyo Hit Ren Reborn, the second season of Black Lagoon. So pretty big shows, still not enough to topple the later season from 2012, just because there's so many more shows coming out now. And, around the time I put together this chart, I made this video called, about the summer season of 2015, and I was saying that it's possibly the best summer season of all time. And people were, completely incredulous. I don't think anybody agreed with that statement. But I kind of showed my work at the beginning of the video, but, it wasn't very clear, I guess. I didn't dwell on it for too long. But the thing is, summer wasn't even a season where shows came out until the mid-2000s. If you look at the 90s, there's 2 shows per summer season that even existed. And, up until the 2010s, summer season always had less than half the shows that the spring and fall season had, because spring and fall are the 2 big ones, and then summer and winter are the smaller ones. That stopped being true in the last 5 years, and it was specifically last year that we had a summer season that had more shows than the spring season. It was the first time that has ever happened. So that summer season, in terms of shows that were big and popular, you had Charlotte, Gate, Overlord, Gangsta was pretty big, Roka no Yusha, Prison School, all these shows that were pretty big at the time and will probably continue to grow. I wouldn't be surprised if Prison School eventually becomes a big one. Gate, definitely. Charlotte's already fairly big, according to these Mal stats. And, it was funny because I said in the video, I think I named 9 shows that I'd watched to completion. And people kept saying, how can you say it's the best season when you only finished 9 shows out of, all these ones that were there, and all the ones you dropped were, shows that other people liked. And I'm like, do you know how rarely I finish a season with 9 shows I liked? It had Prison School, Shimoneta, Akagami no Shirayuki Hime, Gakko Gurashi, the second or third season of Durarara, Jitsu wa Watashi wa was pretty okay, Sore ga Seiyu and Wakaba Girl and Wakakozake. Those were all the shows I finished, and they were all pretty solid. And, that was crazy to me, having that many good shows in a season. And, Prison School and Shimoneta and Gakko Gurashi were, the 3 that were, my favorites. And, none of those are, 10 out of 10 shows or even 9 out of 10 shows, but they're all great shows. And it was exciting to see that quantity of good shows come out in a season, when typically I'll find, 3. 3 good shows that I'm actually excited about by the end of a season. But it's funny because when you say stuff is this the best season of anime, everyone immediately is going to think no, because they know in their mind that there's so many, if one of your favorite shows isn't from this season, then it's hard to imagine that it's the best season, right? Same goes for the best year, where, I think a lot of people think that, 1998 is one of the best years in anime history. And I'm going to go through 1998, you had, Outlaw Star was a big, from winter. From spring, you had Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, Cardcaptor Sakura, and Yu-Gi-Oh! All pretty fucking big. Initial D also started then. From summer, you had Serial Experiments Lane. And from the fall, you had Kare Kano, and that's the main one that people would remember. So, all great shows. All in all, spectacular year. But it really depends on your perspective, because some people will say that year is much better than any since it, because, hey, there were 6 top-tier shows. But it really depends on how many shows you like every year, because I just named one season that had 9 good shows in it, Now, that's not a fair comparison, because there were other good shows from 1998 that I didn't name. I just named, the main ones. Really depends on your taste. Some people really like well, this is like the TV version of Record of Lodoss War. Neo Ranga was pretty fun. I liked it. Nightwalker has some fans. Shadow Skill has some fans. Those are like kind of obscure though. Bubblegum Crisis 2040. Generator Gull was a fun show that I watched when I was like much younger. Eat Man 98 is cool. So there's like, you know, there's some decent shows strewn throughout 1998. But like comparing that to like a year like 2014, where for me, god damn, I had a field day with 2014. There was fucking Hunter x Hunter's conclusion. There was like half of Log Horizon. There was half of Kill La Kill. There was Ping Pong. There was fucking Baby Steps. There was Barakamon. You know, I made a top 20 for that year. Like, I made that series of videos, my top 20 anime of 2014, and the minimum score on that list was a 7. That was No Game No Life. I gave a 7. So it was basically everything I gave a flat 7 and upwards was on my top 20 list. The top 10 were all like 9 out of 10 and above. So, like, amazing year. 20 great shows. I could not make a top 20 of 1998, you know? Now, the question is anything from 2014 as good as Cowboy Bebop or Serial Experiments Lain? Obviously, I think so, but if you don't like Log Horizon and Kill La Kill and Hunter x Hunter and Ping Pong, then that year is worthless for you, you know? So it's really interesting to see, like, you know, how different people perceive it, but if we're going by, like, the raw data, the raw what my anime list thinks, then we come away with each season kind of getting better than the one before it. And when I look at the current season, it's fucking crazy, because you've got, like, a ton of shows that are already taking off and getting big. You've got Cabaneri of the... And a lot of these are original. That's the craziest part. Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, totally original anime. You've got Kisniver, which is completely original. You've got Mayo Iga, which is completely original. And those are all solid shows. You've got fucking... Space Patrol Luluko is original. Kuromukuro, which I've heard mixed things about, and High School Fleet, which a lot of people like. All completely original shows. Then we've got a swath of great manga adaptations. We've got Sancha Sanyo, we've got Bakuan, we've got Shonen Maid, if you're into that. Kuma Miko is great. Tanaka-kun I've heard good things about. JoJo still fucking going somehow. Flying Witch is fantastic. Bungo Stray Dogs is fun. Sakamoto Desu is amazing, and Boku no Hero Academia is amazing. And a lot of people love ReZero, light novel adaptation. Tons of good shows. No matter who you are, there's something you're gonna fucking like this season. I would be bad, like, unless you're someone who specifically doesn't like shows because they're new, and I know some people like that who only will get into older shows. Like they wait for a show to sort of prove itself before they're willing to watch it. But, like, you have to find something this season. It's fucking great. How can there be that many good shows? I've never seen it before. I've never seen a season with so many shows that I didn't drop after the first episode, you know? I mean, I've got marked as watching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 shows. 14 shows I haven't dropped yet. And I've dropped some shows this season that I didn't even think were bad. You know, I mean, I do that every season. There's always ones that I'm like, yeah, this seems fine, but it's just not really something I feel like watching. Like Shonen Maid, you know, I didn't have any problems with it. It just didn't seem like a show I'd maintain interest in all the way through, you know. And there's a few of these I could see dropping. Like, I could easily see dropping Bungo Stray Dogs and, what was the one I just passed? Fucking, Kuromukuro. But, like, man... what a solid fucking season. It's just, again, it's just like a numbers game, though. Like, I don't think people look back at the previous seasons and then actually, like, measure how they felt about that season. You know, here's the popular shows from spring of 2015. You had Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon was the biggest show that season, which I didn't even bother finishing the first episode. Shokugeki no Soma, which is awesome. Owari no Seraph was pretty popular. I didn't watch it. Kekkai Sensen was pretty good. Season 2 of fucking Oregairu, Plastic Memories, Ore Monogatari, Unlimited Blade Works Season 2. Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, Hibike Euphonium, Arslan Senki, and season 2 of Danaganani. It was a pretty good season. It wasn't bad. I just don't think it even, like, compares to this current one, especially in terms of the original shows we're getting now. Like, out of these, Plastic Memories is, like, the only original show that was on TV last spring. I'm looking through to see if that's true. That and Punchline. Plastic Memories and Punchline. Those were our 2 original shows that season, which were both solid. Oh, and Eto Tama, but that was just a weird one. Yeah, so, like, wow, how is this happening? How are we even getting this influx of original shows, this influx of great shows, all in one season? And then you go back to, like, you know, some year that people hold in high regard. Let's say spring 2007, which is a great season. It had Gurren Lagann, Darker Than Black, Claymore, Lucky Star, Lovely Complex, and that's the heavy hitters, and that's all of them. There's 5. There's like 5 really heavy hitters. Kaze no Stigma is the next most popular thing, which I don't know if anybody cares about. Seto no Hanayome and Hayate no Gotoku, Seirei no Moribito, Bokurano, Deno Coil actually started that season, an amazing show that should be a heavy hitter, but isn't. Great season, lots of really excellent shows. Nanoha Strikers came out that season. And again, for some people, the fact that Gurren Lagann came out that season automatically makes it better than the current season. Which is fair if you feel that way. It's just thinking about, like, the quantity versus the season. Although, that was a bad pick, because that is one of the best seasons ever. 2007 Spring is definitely one of my favorite anime seasons of all time. But yeah, I don't know. I find this all fascinating. I don't know if other people do. I just think that if you, like, for me, the best way to, like, kind of remind myself that anime is still good and to see that, like, you know, that previous years and decades, there was just so little coming out that it couldn't possibly be as good as now, you know? If you look at my chart, there's a point where I get down to, like, the 80s, and there's just so few shows even that came out that anyone has seen, that, like, the ratings are inherently, like, way lower than any other seasons, you know? And I just did it all by year, because there's so few shows each season that there was no reason to go season by season anymore. Let's see, where's the, number of shows counted per season for 1990? There were, like, there's, for winter 1990, I counted 4 shows. For spring, I counted 2. For summer, I counted 2, and for fall, I counted 0. I think there was, like, a cutoff. No, there wasn't even a cutoff. I even have listed that there's under 1K. So there just were no shows that aired in the fall of 1990. There was not a single TV anime, I guess. Like, there was lots of OVAs and probably continuing shows. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Oh, you know what? That's what it is. It's that there was only a score for a show if it got over 1,000, had over 1,000 viewers. So there were 8 shows in that fall that existed, and of those, none of them had more than 1,000 viewers. Whereas the previous season had 2 shows, period. The season before that had 11, and the season before that had 4. So yeah, like there was just not a lot of anime on TV at the time. You get into fucking the 80s, and I've barely got any fucking shows on these lists, because, like, there's 12 in a year in 1989, you know? The amount of shows coming out in a year in the 80s is the amount of shows that are good in one season now. That's crazy. So yeah, anyway, you can peruse that graph if you want. It's out of date horribly now because, you know, some shows keep getting more popular. Death Note now is up to fucking almost 900,000 fucking viewers. That's insane that it's still growing that much even today on my anime list. I mean, it could just be that every person who's made a Mal account, you know, since I made this, has Death Note on their list because everyone's fucking seen it. I don't even know how many users there are on Mal, but I feel like Death Note is more than half of them at least. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that, I guess.